All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion that we're going to have today about the European research project called Sharespace. Thank you so much for taking time for coming here because I know how exciting and how amazing all of the stuff that is going on at this festival is. So taking time is really appreciated. Also, thank you to my guests that I will introduce in a short time. So my name is Sinta Wieringa. I work as a researcher and artist at the Ars Electronica Future Lab. And to very quickly explain what the Future Lab is, the Future Lab is part of the larger organization of Ars Electronica that focuses mostly on research. So we do research in different ways. We do research, artistic research projects with clients and collaborators, but one of the type of projects that we also do are European research projects like this one. So I am also the project manager for Sharespace. Sharespace is a 3-year research project funded by under Horizon Europe. At the core of Sharespace is it's in the domain of virtual reality and extended reality technology, and then especially about embodied collaboration. So this is collaborating with other people in virtual spaces where each is represented by a virtual human or an avatar, as we call it. And at the core of the project, the idea is basically that we want to improve collaboration in virtual spaces by looking at social information that is encoded in the way that we move. So I will give you, that was a very short synopsis. We will get more into the details of what exactly the project is a bit later and by my guests that I will now also introduce to you. So today our speakers are our core research partners within the Sharespace project. They come from all different corners of Europe, and I thank them very much for being here. So Marta and DJ and Stefan and Kathleen and Christina, can you guys join me here on stage? The idea for the panel today is that in a little bit I will give each of my collaborators the chance to give a little bit of a talk about what their specific angle is within this larger project, because it's a completely interdisciplinary project that brings together different types of different expertises. So they will give a short explanation on what exactly they do. And then one of the things that is also core to this project, and this is also why we are here situated at the Ars Electronica Festival, is that one of the things that we are going to do within this project is develop artworks for utilizing this Sharespace technology. And we are actually, through an open call, actively looking for a person or a media artist to collaborate with us to create an artwork and then present it here at the festival next year. So later on, at the end of our discussions, we will also spend some time on this open call and hopefully find someone who wants to collaborate with us. So that being said, we will now start our part of the expert talks, and I will start with DJ. So DJ is a professor in computer science at the University of Kaiserslautern. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Great. And he's also active at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, where he leads the research department Augmented Vision, which is, so the DFKI is the acronym for this organization, is the largest independent AI research center worldwide. And within Sharespace, this organization is also leading the project coordination. So I give the microphone to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the nice introduction. Wait for the slide. I'm getting some slides. So we heard already a little bit about Sharespace, the European project. I'm going to give some more detail about it and introduce the consortium. So what we look at is that embodies social experience in hybrid shared space. And what we want to do is to develop the technology and also validate this technology, evaluate this technology, a little bit looking towards the future. So we can imagine a far future, we will have hybrid societies. So societies with real person, but also maybe some virtual avatar we interact with. And that's what we would like to anticipate, study, develop, experiment, but also think about it, if it's the right way, or how to design this virtual space so that they are safe, that they are ethically correct, let's say, or compliant with us. That's all the different topic of Sharespace. But basically we have, I would say, 3 dimensions we look at. The first one is the interaction between the 2 people. So we focus on social interaction, and we study the motion between people, an avatar, and a group. So one person in a group of persons. So it's a social interaction. It's written in the second sentence. So what we look at and we want to understand is this shared sensory motor space. So it's a little bit like the body language, if you like, to understand when people interact together, or when I interact with an avatar, where is the information? What is the important information, so that you feel comfortable interacting with a virtual avatar. I don't know if you already tried to interact with a virtual avatar, but at the moment it's very, very difficult. They are like a robotic motion and not engage in the social interaction. So that's the first dimension. The second one is, I would say, the level of immersion. So we want to study this virtual space in virtual reality. So everybody has a head-mounted display, and we meet a virtual space. You have your own avatar in the virtual space, and you see the other person. But also, and I think that's very interesting, also in augmented reality. So you're in a real environment, and close to you, you see a virtual avatar you can interact with, or several avatars you can interact with in your real environment. And this dimension, I think that has been not so much research up to now. And I say 3 dimensions, so I have to find the third one. Yes, the third one is the level of autonomy that the avatar will be. So the avatar could be just controlled one-to-one, I would say, for a remote person. It's a remote person, like in a video call, close to me, and we just transmit the motion of the remote person one-to-one to the avatar. There is no modification. But of course, to be compliant, you will have to adapt this motion, look at the people, change the orientation, and you can imagine we can even change the motion of the people depending on the context, or have, at the end, the extrema, fully virtual avatars. That's a third dimension. So the level of autonomy of the avatars we're going to have, and that we want also to study. What are the rules to make them more or less autonomous, and what is important information, the motion, that you can still naturally interact with them. So it's a very ambitious project, and that's why we have a very nice consortium. We built a multidisciplinary consortium with people from different, let's say, horizons. So first we start with this on the left side. I don't go over all the logo, but we have people from the technology and let's say computer science. So it's basically computer vision, computer graphic, motion capturing, and of course AI, so neural network and deep learning. Then we have people from movement science and also motor social cognition. You will hear more about it in a minute. Then, of course, one very important aspect is ethics and social science to study this, and also to evaluate our approaches and make them compliant, or even design our system in the right way. And last but not least, we have also people from the hardware side. So people who take care of the head-mounted display, when we also here to push the technology a little bit, especially for augmented reality. Well, you still don't have a perfect system, and way too long. And we will test that in 3 applications: health. I will just explain them quickly with another slide: sport and cycling, and art. And that's why we are today here. So health will be rehabilitation exercises in different spaces. First one will be virtual space. Here we look at motion capture, how to carry the information to the avatar from the rehabilitation person or the coach or the therapist to the patient, the relation, but also study synchronization effect in a group and try to regenerate this effect of connectedness among the person. We'll also hear more about this in a minute. And second scenario is sport. Same idea, but totally different environment. On the left side, you see a virtual reality sport space. So everybody is on an indoor bike and they meet in a virtual world. That's, let's say, quite not obvious, but something we can more or less control, or we know what has to be done. The second scenario is on the right. If we transfer this virtual reality application in augmented reality, then it's a challenge. So you have someone outside biking, and you can see in front of him virtual avatars, so virtual friends there biking with him. And the other way around, the people on the indoor biking, they can share the same experience. So it's a shared experience, remote with some virtual, but also some augmented reality application. And the last one is art. And here, it's very open. That's, for us, it's the blank page we would like to fill in. By design or by construct from our proposal, we didn't want to decide already on the topic, but open a little bit the box or think about beyond the project and the concept we have, what can we reach, what could it be, and start also to reflect on this technology and put that in an art performance using the different components we're going to develop. That's why we have this open call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DJ. So we will now move on to our next expert talk, which is from Christina over here. And Christina works at the University Medical Center Hamburg-Eppendorf as the head of the Becchio Lab. And at this lab, within the Department of Neurology, they perform mainly research on the control and perception of body motion during human social interaction. So when we talk about we want to improve virtual communication by looking at the social information that is encoded in how we move, then Christina is definitely an expert on performing the research on this. So without further ado,
thank you so much. It's a great opportunity. It's a rare opportunity to talk to an audience like this. And I was already anticipated by Didier. We look forward to the feedback that you will have for us. So this is what we do in my lab. It's a basic neuroscience lab. And what we do, we study movement kinematics, the way we move. Why do we study the way we move? The intuition is that the way we move conveys a lot of information about our internal states. From the way a person moves, you can tell whether she is sad or happy, emotions. You can tell her intention. You can tell, to some extent, even her beliefs. What we study is how this information about internal states is encoded in movement kinematics. So we study movement kinematics from an information-based perspective. And to do this, we basically use motion capture techniques that are the same techniques that are used for the digital animation. So the first step in our research is always to quantify and characterize the information that is specified in movement patterns. And what we do next is basically, hope the video works. No. Maybe, if I do, I go to the next slide. Okay, thank you so much. So what you see here, these are the stimuli that we use in a typical experiments. We show videos like this, and we ask our participants, naive participants, to guess about the intention of the person in grasping the bottle. And you know what? From just seeing a video like this, people can tell whether the person will be pouring or drinking. What this indicates is that intention information is specified in movement kinematics. So it's not only that the information is there, but we are able to some extent to read it out. This is the concept, the basic concept of what we do. Movement conveys information. This information can be read out But the point is that human perceivers are not able to read out all of the information that is specified. We are, if you want, suboptimal observers. We are not able to read all the information. And now comes the intuition of Sharespace. Why don't we amplify this information to make it more accessible, more visible to other people, to facilitate social interaction? So the concept of one of the goals to Sharespace is identify the specific movement features that convey information and amplify these features to amplify information, so to facilitate social transmission. How can this be done? I could show you the equations, but perhaps this is not the best, most intuitive approach to explain the concept of amplification. A much more effective way, I think, is through art. And I think we are in the right place. This, what you see here on the, is it also a pointer? No, it doesn't matter. Here on the, what is it, the left side, you see the Visitation by Pontormo. Pontormo was an Italian mannerist painter. And what he captured here is the moment of the embrace between Mary and her cousin Elizabeth. And this painting that is, I think it's exposed in Florence, was of inspiration for a visual artist, Bill Viola. What you, in the right upper corner, you see Bill Viola looking at the Visitation just after the restoration of the painting. So what Bill Viola did in a famous piece of art that is called The Greeting was to capture the encounter between two women. The two women, there are in the first minutes of the video, you see two women talking to each other, and then a third woman enters the scene, and she embraces with one of the two women that were previously talking. So he's reproducing a specific, the context of the Visitation by Pontormo. And the entire sequence lasts only 45 seconds. But what Bill Viola is doing is slowing down the motion to the point that now the sequence lasts 10 minutes. And I will show you only the very moment of the encounter between the women, and then we can comment on what's going on, hopefully. Yeah, it's very slow. So what is this slowing down of the motion doing? Any intuition? How would you describe it? I find it really powerful. But why is it so powerful, like many other pieces of work by Bill Viola? Why is it so powerful? And in the words of the artist, it is about capturing the moment, but also stretching it. It is the emotions that are being stretched. So by stretching the motion, what Bill Viola is doing, it's stretching, by stretching the motion, he is stretching the emotions. So he's stretching, amplifying the information. And this is exactly what we want to do in Sharespace. Slowing down is just one way of amplifying information. There are other ways to be explored, and one of the challenges of the call that will be launched today, correct, is exactly this. Find new ways of amplifying information to facilitate social transmission.
Thank you very much, Christina. That was a very clear way of describing something that took me quite a while to understand exactly what it was. So the next person that's going to talk for us is Marta. And Marta works at Euromov, which is part of the University of Montpellier. And the research that they do there also has to do with movement, but also has to do with something that in Sharespace we look at as the concept of social connectedness. So the emotion that comes with moving as well in synchronicity, I believe. And so I think she will now explain us a little bit more about the research that they do.
Thanks. So happy to be here. Right, so in our lab, we're working on social connectedness. And social connectedness and cohesion, those are relational emotions. Those are emotions you can only feel when there are other people or other agents around you. So like we are here today, we sit quite far away from each other. When you know the people you're around with, you have a feeling of warmth, affiliation, and those are exactly the emotions we want to recreate in hybrid spaces, those digital spaces using technologies such as VR or extended reality.
Emotions and their intentions.
So,
what they want to do
especially we are
in the
interested
world.
in
That's
exploring motor synchronicity, so people moving in synchrony. And the reason behind it is that this is the emotional foundation for humans for growing such capacity, for example, as experiencing empathy, so understanding what other people feel, and ability to regulate your own emotions. In this study, they were looking at the babies mimicking their mother and trying to interact together. And you can see the baby smiling. Now the baby is very confused because mom stopped mimicking the baby. So basically, she's cutting the synchrony. She's disrupting the mimicry. And you can think about it in the context of this call, that there are many ways we can work together, we can connect in hybrid spaces. This doesn't have to be a synchronous performance. This can be collaborative performance. This can be imitative performance. Or again, could be something as primal as mimicry. So as Christina has explained, one of the principles we're especially interested in is amplification. And actually, art has been always ahead of science in trying to depict and convey what emotions are. In science, we're quite poor at capturing emotion and movement so far. So what we're trying to do is to give, thinking about the call where we will nest in Sharespace, is to give you tools for avatars to amplify the movement in such a way that the emotion is more readable for the other person in that immersive hybrid space. And the other principle is social connectedness. So what we can do is manipulate the synchrony, which you saw there on the video with a baby and mom, mimicry, on the way you've experienced the social connectedness in hybrid spaces. Sorry. So we are interested in creating ethical, socially responsible technology. That means human-centric technology. We don't want to create a technology just to play around. We want to create technology that is meaningful for humans to feel more connected and empowered by technology. So we treat it as a very positive challenge, despite the fact there are some risks we want to take into account and kind of design the system in such a way we're not going to create, for example, possibility that people will get addicted to this technology, because you can easily imagine that in those spaces, if you're manipulating the synchronicity with an agent, for example, or you amplify the signal too much, those interactions will be more smooth than interactions we have during our daily lives. So we want to create scenarios when we can leverage and kind of create meaningful interactions, but not overwhelm people and not create technology that's actually harmful for our well-being. And Kathleen is going to be able to explore those issues a little bit more. I just want to mention one more thing. So we are talking about 2 levels of virtual characters in those spaces. And we use the term L2, which is like in automated driving. Those are semi-autonomous characters. So this will be representations of artists, of an agent, and the hybrid spaces where we'll amplify either the motor features or, for example, synchronicity between the agents. And L3 will be the agents which are virtual characters. So those will be artificial agents and will not have a representation in a physical world. So now I think, Cynthia, you can introduce Kathleen. Thank you.
So before I introduce Kathleen, I first of all have to very much thank her, because originally we had a different speaker planned, but she was a research partner of the consortium, and she was also here and very last minute agreed to participate, so didn't have that much preparation time. But Kathleen comes from De Montfort University in Leicester, from the UK. And this partner is especially very responsible for the ethical considerations that go into the Sharespace project. So, Kathleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, hello? Is it amplified? Thank you. That's the notes. So, ethics by design. So, as you can see here, is there a second slide, or is it just this one?
It's just
this one. Initially, we were inspired in the terms of the roadmap we're building right now by a quote by Paula Boddington from a book she published on AI and ethics earlier this year, which really emphasizes that there's not just one form of ethics, and this is really key. But what most ethics appraisal systems do have in common is the insertion these days in the ethics by design paradigm is the insertion of human-centered principles right from the conceptual stages and then throughout the design process. So at Sharespace and also at De Montfort, we use the European Commission guidelines from 2021. And there's a long history of looking at design ethically. Throughout the 1960s, there was a term that was technological assessment, which was used frequently. And this was primarily used to enable political decision-making, and it really wasn't sufficient to then grapple with the new ethics of information technology. And this was observed already by researchers like Paulman Hansen already by 2006. And so they actually developed an assessment tool that they used that was called ethical technology assessment, and that's quite similar to ethics by design, which now has a lot of different manifestations. And they had proposed checklists, which is something we also use, and similar to ethics by design, and these cover aspects of dissemination, control and influence, impact on sociality. So I'll call it a long-tailed history, but there's new implications these days for reasons I'm sure we're all well aware of. In shared hybrid spaces, there's a lot of, Marta touched on this, there's a lot of novel ethical issues due to the combinations of humans and avatars in different types of scenarios. And so these issues for us generally, in ethical terms, involve transparency, privacy, and trust. And so, but I just wanted to reiterate at the end that we're not here just as gatekeepers or negative scrutiny, but also because ethics by design takes place throughout the process, some of our goals are also, one of the quote is a delight in the human experience, or to increase the social benefits of social interaction. So there's a lot of positive framing as well. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. So far, we've talked a lot about, I guess, the research that goes into the academic research that goes behind realizing the vision of Sharespace, but a very large part of Sharespace is, of course, also the technicalities and the technological skill to create these hybrid spaces. And for that, we actually have amazing, amazing expertise in our consortium, which is Stefan. Stefan is the CEO of Golem, which is a software company that is extremely well versed in the field of animation. So I'm very excited for Stefan to explain his angle in here in the Sharespace project. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia, for the nice introduction. As you said, Golem is a software company, so we are providing animation tools to allow people to populate virtual worlds. So we are used now by hundreds of studios in the world, in animated and visual effects studios, so doing movies and TV series. And so we provided these technologies to control the animation, individual animation of characters, not only humans, but any kind of creature, and also the behavior of those creatures, individual and collective behaviors. So we can manage huge crowds, several hundreds of thousands of people evolving in digital environments. So what we will provide in this project is a way to control the animation of avatar. So if it's the first level, level 1, we just reproduce the motion provided by the mocap systems. So in this project, we will use different technologies to capture the motion, and including the gaze of the character. And we will be able to do the body animation. For the level 1, as the motion will be amplified, modified by different techniques that has been already presented by other partners in the project. So we will have to do this adaptation, apply this adaptation on the avatar that will be animated. And we will also use so fully autonomous character. So those characters can be controlled partly by another partner who is working on a cognitive architecture. And we will have also to mix this with our own technologies. We are providing a lot of AI technologies to define the behavior of those characters with a lot of autonomy. They are able to perceive their environment and to decide how to act in this environment. So we'll provide all those technologies to the artist in this open call, the artist that will be selected to work on this project. And especially for the facial animation, as it will be related to the wearing of head-mounted displays, either for virtual reality or augmented reality, we won't be able to capture the facial expressions of the real person. So what we are working on is a way to animate the face of the person based on a few number of information, the speech, so the sentence that the person is saying in real time, and the eye tracking. So we have the control of the eye, and from this information, we are using deep learning techniques to be able to animate the face of the avatar representing the real person. And what is important for me also, I have a background in research before creating Golem, and from the early 90s, I've always worked with artists. And for me, it's very interesting to develop technologies and to discuss with artists, because artists are providing us a lot of inputs. In my company, we are always asking people to provide feedback. We are always discussing with people in the industry. We are working with a lot of artists in different studios, and they always use the technology in a different manner that we have thought the technology. So we thought it, we develop it for some purposes, and usually we have people who are using it in different manners and asking us for new features, for new improvement, and so it's always it's a co-design of the technology. It's not only us who are developing the technology for artists, but it's a loop, because we are developing it, enhancing it, reacting to the feedback that we get from artists. And so I like this way of working together between the industry and the art.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. So with that, I would actually like to start the next part of this panel, which is the open discussion part. So maybe just for the camera angles, we can all sit a bit more in the middle or move our chairs. And of course, we have some questions that we could, that I could pose to them, but we would also very much like to ask you if you have any questions to please raise your hand and ask them. And feel free to do so at any time. So before I would like to start, is there anyone that already has maybe a general question about the project itself? Because a bit later, afterwards, I will give a bit more information about the open call itself, and then there's also a chance to ask more questions about that. But anyone? Perfect. I'll come to you.
This will be a general question to all of you. I'm from the Sustainable AI Lab in Bonn for the Institute of Science and Ethics. So my consideration is on the ethical aspect of whatever is going on. Based on the fact that you mentioned transparency, privacy, and trust, I start thinking of what about responsibility? Community will go to the shared space in terms of avatar, then there's a possibility to create non-existing beings, and somebody trying to associate with these beings and act in a real world. So whose responsibility? I know most of the time you put the responsibility on the human beings, those who are in the avatar world, but not the designers or the companies. So I want to know whether in the project, the idea of responsibility, to what extent can we look at responsibility? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone from our side who wishes to answer? Yeah, I think that one also works, yeah.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Actually, responsibility is not on the slide, but along with issues like fairness and representation is actually one of the key things that we are also dealing as ethicists as well, due to the factors that you brought up. Because in terms of the responsibility for unethical behavior either during or after, things have to be quite clear. So that it's in our roadmap and indeed in our deliverables as well as one of the major points. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think this one also works.
okay. I would like to just clarify at this stage of the project, this is a new technology and we are putting guardrails on every single scenario. So those autonomous characters we're discussing is going to be operated by cognitive architecture with the motion patterns being very limited. So there is no agency in those characters. Yes?
From the ethical point of view and the philosophical point of view, what I've realized is that we create before we look at the moral or the ethical implications. And agreeing with her, I think it's time for those in the ethical field to see themselves as designers themselves. Because what I've realized in terms of these modern AI technologies is that we create it before we see the ethical implications. It's time for us to start thinking from the philosophical background, start thinking of the existing AI agency and the problems they are causing. So that when we are creating new ones, we should think ethically before we create, because one fear I entertain is the already existing commodification of women and human experiences of existing AI technologies. And I could imagine the transfer of this commodification into the share space. So I know it started January 2023, the project, finance, 5-point-something euros. For me, we should start thinking of what existence wants. I mean, we should start thinking now before we create a problem and start thinking of the ethics. This is my submission.
No, perfect. I think that's great.
Yes, I agree with you. And that's part of what we're doing as well, because we're just getting started and we are considering these questions. And I think your points about commodification are apt and very, very important. And we're considering that. Not just considering it, we're building it into the roadmap also. Yeah.
It's a follow-up. This is exactly the definition of ethics by design. You do not start, you do not develop the technology, and then you ask yourself questions about the ethics. Ethics is there from the very beginning. This is ethics by design. If you read the definition, this is ethics by design. So this is, I would say, a key concept in the project.
Yeah.
I have a question for the audience, if I may.
Absolutely.
Are there any metaverse users among you? You're using the metaverse. So the question is, what is missing there in your experience?
Sometimes I wish something of me is created in the metaverse that I can associate myself with. So this is one of the things, something of me. I feel like it can be expanded. I don't see myself relating to some of the things in the metaverse.
If I may add, because I'm my artistic research, I made a project, it's called Glitch Bodies, where like nothing, not just the digital space was created, but from the very beginning, I worked with protagonists, which are not coming from gaming or media arts, which have never designed a game experience. And they worked with me through a lot of very simple tools, like making a contract between me, the artist, who will then produce this metaverse for them, and also 3D scanning techniques to take their bodies, the real bodies, and then maybe make new avatars or new representation. But it's all based from reality and from real bodies. And I think this is how this translation, because avatars and metaverse consists since 30 years, but nobody really uses it, or why is it not widespread in the community? Because I think everybody creates something new or something different, not taking from reality. And I mean, what you said, I mean, maybe we can discuss it later, but I can show you the project. Unfortunately, yesterday it was launched at Deep Space, but, and it was very hard to produce it, and it was a lot of talks and work in progress showcases to talk with the people if they're okay with this representation. At every step of designing this, which is very painful because it's a very long process, and also a problematic process also, because you cannot just create as an artist. And I think in the end, it's something beautiful can, some beautiful experience can happen when really the protagonists are very happy with their digital representation and their story to be told. It's not just the avatar, how it looks like. It's maybe their recordings of their sounds or their art, or I think it's very interesting that you...
So is there someone from our side who wants to add on to this representation of self, or this feeling represented by the avatars that we make in the digital space?
I can add that we think also to provide to the person that will choose its own representation in the virtual environment to anonymize his own person. So we will provide a way to, because we will make the avatar based on the picture of a real person, but we can use AI-generated pictures that are morphologically similar, propose a set of pictures so the person can select by himself the pictures that will represent him or her in the virtual environment if the person don't want to have its own picture to be used for the avatar.
Yeah, maybe I just want to add that that's exactly what we want in Sharespace, to put on one side the technology and push that as far as we can. And we have big tech partner in it who can do that. It's really exploring. I want to explore. And from parallel to this, from the same time, from the beginning, also reflect on it. It's an ethical reflection, but also explore the other dimension, the social dimension, the motion dimension. And that's a very particular project. We have many projects, it's just tech. just technology, we push the technology, but this one is really designed in that way where we want to explore and push the boundaries and also at the same time reflect on it and think about it, how to design it correctly. That's the real goal.
Yes, because I think based on, do you have anything to add? Or yes, go ahead.
I mean, also with like dealing with embodiment, or maybe also a person is not feeling great in their body or doesn't want to replicate maybe the reality. I think also, did you think about maybe also creating some auras or just feelings with like sensors, or that you can maybe create auras from people? Because today in my project, when I worked with this 100-year-old lady from Japan, she can barely stand because she's so old. She wanted to have a 3D scan from her body, but she was like willing to give a lot of strength in standing while the 3D scanning process works. She wanted to look like she's 100 years old, but she wanted to be standing and kind of walking around, because now she cannot walk anymore. And she used to have a dance school and everything. It's very interesting. It was very interesting for me that she still didn't want to look young, or she didn't want to be dancing. She wanted to be the old person, but like just a little push that she's able to just walk. So yeah, maybe this.
Yeah, I think that's, Christina. Oh, you can also, I think, grab the microphone that's in front of you.
I find it very interesting that you use the word replicate. So when we started this project, in terms of discussion, you remember Didier and Marta, there was a lot of discussion in terms of what was the general aim of the project. And we all agreed that what we didn't want it to do is replicate real reality. Real reality we have, we do not need to replicate it. Why would you replicate real reality? First, we are not able to do that, honestly. And second, it's boring. Why would you do that? So the concept of Sharespace, instead of replicating real reality, is the word that we came up was reconstructing. In a slightly different way, you described it as a little push. We call it amplification, social connectedness. This is the concept. We start from reality, embodiment, and we reconstruct those aspects that can be useful to promote social interaction in hybrid spaces.
I wanted to add on this point because I think it's very valuable. So when we were talking about the artistic scenario with the open call at 2 stages at each year of the project, we were just wondering how artists can explore the amplification of certain motor features. And this is something I think you were kind of hinting on. So you can imagine, for example, you can communicate with your motion confidence or feeling vigor, you know, feeling full of energy. And once your avatar in that space has less or more of certain kind of feature, the social signal, I think this can create enormous possibility for confronting yourself in that space and kind of reacting to the different representation, reconstruction of yourself with those different features. And then you can add on, I'm not an artist, this element of sync. You can be in sync with yourself, with different versions of yourself, and kind of gravitate towards the representation that you want the most, or you would like to interact with. I think those are very interesting possibilities for introspection in that spaces, and this was one of the questions I asked you about your work. How did it make you feel to have your body signals visualized on the kind of metacognitive level?
Thank you. Because I would like to stay maybe on this topic of art a little bit longer, because, or at least in my experience of these research projects and how they are planned, everything seems very preconceived and everything is very well thought out, but this is very particular that it has this art application that is not pre-planned very much at the center of it. And I got involved in the project at a very late stage, so I thought maybe I can invite one of the people who conceived or was part of the beginning. How did this come about, and how does art get such a prominent place in this project, and why is it so important to have this open exploration at the center of this project?
I shouldn't have said as you prefer. I mean, one way to describe this is that there is this, when it's about knowledge, there is this trade-off between exploitation and exploration. And we have two scenarios that in the project, the health scenario and the sports scenario, that are more about exploiting the technology, the platform that we will develop. The art scenario is different. In the art scenario, what we really want is exploration. So we don't know where this is gonna lead. We really don't know, and it's good, because this is what we hope, like, make it possible for us to see something that at this stage of the project we are not able to see. And this is something, I'm in science, in basic science, this is something that science and art have in common. At one point, you see something that you could not see before. And this is what we expect from the art scenario, this exploration thing. I guess that in the audience we have many artists. Maybe they want to comment on this.
I mean, that's very important, because everybody works in some field, and you know your field, but in some way you have your own limitation because you work in this field. So we want someone from the outside, who didn't took part of all of the discussion. So regarding at the project from the outside and bringing his expertise and thinking beyond, let's say, the boundary of the project. That's what it's also important to have someone from the outside. We have user boards, we have ethic boards, we have artist boards, but we need the artists also to conceive and work. And that's exactly the discussion we would like to have and to see where we're going. We are ready to also change a little bit the technology to see where can we push this to also have this kind of discussion as today. Yeah.
So I want to ask, are there at this point any other questions from the audience? Because in that case, I think I also want to ask one more maybe to Stefan, because the open call that I will, I think, present after this. So we are looking for an artist to collaborate with Sharespace, and we have really already said it really entails, there's so many different moving parts. And we also see here at the festival this relationship between art and technology. Technology becomes more advanced. There are more specific skills that are maybe needed or wanted if you want to create art with technology. And I think you have kind of worked in this field, or have been part of this bridge between art and technology already for quite a while. So is this something that you experience, that over the time artists that you work with have more technological skills, or is there more an interchange, or are they really asking you to help them with the skills that they lack? So I was wondering if you could shed some light on that.
It depends completely on the ambition of the artistic project. I've worked on different projects. Some were only, I would say, interactive visual. In other, it were interactive installations with audio, visual, music composed before by a musician, but modify lively by the user, by taking the information from the user, interaction between the audio and the avatar and the autonomous character evolving in the virtual environment. So you can have things very complex. And when you have complex things, you don't have anybody who is able to control everything. So artists have their own skills, but it's a collaborative work in this case between different artists, and also collaboration between art and technology. And you have the go-between, people who have two competencies, artistic competencies, who have the ability to discuss with artists and technical background, and they are the go-between. So it's, for example, what IRCAM is developing for many years in the music. They have people who are working with music composers, and they have researchers developing technologies, and they have the people who are able to pass information between the researchers and the music composers and other labs like Ars Electronica, ZKM. So different places have people like that who are the go-between with the ability to work with artists and to develop technology and to co-design new technologies based on the input provided by artists and based on what the technology can provide for them. So it completely depending on the ambitions of the project.
Thank you. Does any of the panelists have any more questions they want to ask the audience, or the other way around, or each other? Okay, great, amazing.
That if at any stage in the future any of the people who are interested in applying for the call would have any questions regarding the possible cooperation modes or kind of spatial-temporal relationship or how to use sync, I'm very happy, and so are my colleagues at University of Montpellier, to have a call with you and discuss or send you some material to clarify.
I mean, I can definitely underline this point that working together in this consortium has been a lot of fun, and everybody is very collaborative. And I like in this research project that you're really just figuring stuff out together, and it's very different to other types of maybe work that we do at the lab, where you're really collaborating with like a client or you're doing something for a client. That this is really research, and we constantly say that there are all these times like these chicken and eggs problems. It's like we cannot solve this unless we figure that other thing out. But I'm very sure that we're gonna figure this out. Well, thank you so much for listening. Also, thank you so much to all of my fantastic research partners who came all the way from their respective countries, from France, from Germany, from England, to be here and help me present this project to this crowd. And very much looking forward to see what kind of great artistic things we're going to make in the coming year. So thanks everyone, an applause for everyone.